We're off to the field. Super
Most people
soakers
talk
are
about Neverland. Very few talk about the children who actually spend time there. And that's strange, because today, many of those children are no longer children at all. They're adults. Some are parents. Some are grandparents. Some barely speak publicly. But when a few of them do, something interesting happens. Their stories often sound very different from the stories the world has spent years arguing about. And that's what caught my attention. Because while people continue debating Michael Jackson, these former children are talking about something else entirely. A train ride, a movie theater, a Ferris wheel, a single afternoon they never forgot. 17 years after Michael Jackson's death, one question remains. What do the people who were actually there remember? Imagine you're 10 years old. You spent months inside hospitals, doctors, treatments, waiting rooms, adults discussing things you don't fully understand. Then one morning, someone tells you you're going somewhere special. Not another hospital, not another appointment. Somewhere different. The gates open. A train station appears. A Ferris wheel turns slowly in the distance. Animals wander nearby. And for the first time in a long time, you feel like a kid again. That's how many former visitors describe their first moments at Neverland. Not as a celebrity estate, not as a famous ranch, but as a place that felt impossible, almost like stepping into a movie. What's interesting is that many of them remember the same details. The train, the movie theater, the rides, the animals, the feeling that for one day, life felt normal. And years later, some still talk about those moments more than anything else. But that's not the part that surprised me. The surprising part came much later, because eventually those children grew up. Life moved on. School, work, families, responsibilities. And yet, when some of them were interviewed years later, something unusual happened. Many didn't focus on Michael Jackson at all. Instead, they talked about what the experience meant to them. One person remembered feeling seen. Another remembered feeling safe. Someone else remembered laughing for the first time in months. And that raises an interesting question. Why do people remember places differently than outsiders do? Because if you ask someone who never visited Neverland, they'll often talk about headlines. If you ask someone who actually spent time there, they often talk about memories. The gap between those two perspectives may be larger than most people realize. And that's where the story becomes more complicated. Not everyone agrees on what Neverland represents. Some people see it as a symbol of generosity. Others see it through a completely different lens. The debate has existed for years, and it probably isn't going away anytime soon. But here's something worth thinking about. Many of the children who visited Neverland had no idea who Michael Jackson really was, especially the younger ones. To them, he wasn't the king of pop. He wasn't a global superstar. He was simply the man who opened the gates. The man who created a place where they could ride rides, watch movies, and forget their problems for a few hours. Whether people agree or disagree about Michael Jackson, that part of the story remains difficult to ignore. Because memories have a strange way of surviving arguments. And some memories last a lifetime. Today, many of those visitors are no longer children. They're adults. Some have children of their own. Some have grandchildren. And yet, when Neverland appears in the news again, many find themselves remembering a completely different place than the one being discussed by strangers online. Not a symbol, not a controversy, not a headline, a memory. And maybe that's why the conversation around Neverland never really ends. Because people aren't only arguing about a ranch. They're arguing about what that ranch meant. To Michael, to the public, and to the people who actually walked through those gates. Which brings us back to the question. When we talk about Neverland today, whose memories matter most? The people who watch from the outside, or the people who were actually there? I'd love to hear what you think in the comments.